Flame coaching god. G2, a lot of egos here.
I spoke to Perks in the makeup room earlier, and he's like, the entire tournament has been my lane kingdom, but today is going to be extra special, so hopefully it comes through for Europe.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I think Perks has really performed well at this tournament. Even though G2 hasn't been a good early game team, Perks has been a good early game mid laner. He's actually 6 kills, 1 death, 3 assists in the first 15 minutes. And particularly in this game where G2 has the red side, G2 is 2-0 on the red side in this tournament when compared to 1-3 on the blue side. And one of the big advantages about being red side is it's much easier to get a counter pick for your mid lane.
Yeah, definitely. And if it's not for your mid laner, then at least it's for your solo laner on the other side, you know, the top lane in expect right there.
Yeah, and what we're expecting out of this draft phase is definitely an Ivern ban from Team WE, but I'm wondering how the shielders are going to get attacked and where those pinches are, because we've seen Team WE have to play it both ways on the blue side, whether they have to pick between junglers or between shielders. And G2 is actually not even going to trade any shielders whatsoever, so that definitely changes the dynamic of the game.
Definitely looking for other power picks here if you're G2 Esports. It feels to me that Mithy is more comfortable on a melee support, and I feel like he can actually break open this matchup too. We saw yesterday there was a plan to get bot lane ahead. We saw Trick run an Experience Queen, go for double camp into Scuttle, and then get a level 3 gank bot. That was ultra planned, so you can definitely tell, even if they draft weaker matchups, Trick will alleviate pressure there.
And looking at this, with the Graves ban, it's no longer even a trade of Graves or Lee Sin, but the thing is, Trick's Lee Sin does not demand very much respect.
Exactly. This first pick is through onto Ashe instead, when Lee Sin would normally have been a first pick worthy champion in other matches. But you're right, Trick, not the biggest Lee Sin player, means you can take that later on.
Yeah, I would actually rather see Trick play Kha'Zix. More so, I would love the Elise the most, but I don't think his Elise has been good domestically. And then if you look at junglers that can pace just a little bit better, you know, have a little bit of a mark, even if their early game isn't great, I would personally like a Kha'Zix. I don't think G2 also doesn't feel too bad about the Ashe steals. Ven can perform on other champions.
Exactly. Ashe has been first picked by Team WE before in one of their blue side victories earlier in the tournament, and they also have the flexibility now of getting to take the Lee Sin. So this can potentially be a side of picks that both teams could be happy with.
Yeah, and G2, they prioritized Lee Sin over Elise versus TSM, and then Svenskar ran away with the game right there. So definitely a change up in their style, showing some adaptability. It's also something we saw in Perks. Even though he's under pressure sometimes, he's become a way more well-rounded player. You were talking earlier about how consistent he has been. That has been his pedigree during the entire season.
So the case we're going to see a support pickup potentially here for WB right here. I'm still, on the G2 side, not pleased with the bans they put through because they banned the Graves. Then it just feels like they got kind of pushed around in the first few picks.
Yeah, this had to be Tahm Kench here for Mithy, because he likes playing it. It helps shifting these lane-to-lane movements that help them pace in the early game, and it's just a great pick into Malzahar.
Exactly. Malzahar isn't the same type of lane harass as he used to be, because his little minion things, what are they even called? Voidlings. Now take 2 hits instead of 3 to kill. Tahm Kench has actually been an early pick support when the Karma and the Lulu have been taken off the table. So the fact that WE kind of walked into that Malzahar, I actually think does favor G2 a little bit, and now we have the solo lanes left to decide.
They even get double value. Tahm Kench in itself is good against Ashe already. Getting it against the Malzahar suppression, Devour is just going to be a key component here. Hopefully maybe even allowing Sven to not rush to QSS.
True, and maybe eat my words, and Tahm Kench is the right choice after all, and G2 is the mastermind behind the ban phase too, as you kind of alluded to, somewhat baiting the Malzahar and getting value for the Tahm Kench afterwards. Bans coming through, several top laners on both sides. All the mid laners left available for the most part here, unless you consider Karma and Fizz as the flexes.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I would say, Freak, is both teams are playing their own game in this draft phase. You can look at this draft in a number of ways. Giving away Ashe and then letting Lee Sin fall to the second rotation on blue side can be a disaster for most teams. I mean, that's why Trick has played 2 Lee Sin games, because it's such a high value pick. So there's a very real chance Condi takes over this game for Lee Sin, but we got to focus on the solo lanes now.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly a great point, because we've been talking from like G2's perspective, but look at what Team WE is drafting. Ashe and Malzahar are their comfort picks in that bottom lane. Condi can definitely play Lee Sin. We now get an even tank matchup with the Gragas in the top lane that I would even favor slightly towards the Gragas. So I think G2 is sacrificing maybe the perfect steals, but they're going for their own comfort.
And you got to keep in mind, if Mithy's not there on the Tahm Kench, someone's going to get ulted into probably dying to whatever solo lane has actually come out here, of course. Gragas there for the crowd control. You assume it's coming through for him in the top side, and now you probably need some kind of high damage mid laner, which LeBlanc fits the bill on. And if you're not careful, someone's getting popped on G2's side.
And I'm really excited to see this LeBlanc matchup if they lock in, which they do.
Give me the
LeBlanc
rise.
has actually been the most banned champion at MSI, but in the 4 times it's been picked, it's lost every game because the teams that have been willing to give up LeBlanc have had a ready pick for it. Rise has won against it twice, including once for G2. So Perkz is absolutely ready to play against this LeBlanc, but whenever Champ's banned for 14 times, it's not like these teams are just playing a fool. They definitely have some strategy and some wins behind that LeBlanc.
Yeah, but I definitely like the reaction here. I think Perkz is super happy with the way this matchup scales. Early on it's tricky, so I think the breaking point is just these early few ganks. Can Condi do what he so often does, is just break open one of these lanes early with the Lee Sin, because otherwise it's going to be quite tricky. Alternatively, if Xia is going to sit on this teleport versus Snare and Cocoon in the mid lane, he may just die.
Yeah, that's a potentially dangerous lane, but I also see the Gragas pushing the Shen, the Ashe Malzahar pushing in the Varus Tahm Kench, and maybe the LeBlanc getting some shove onto the Rise. So this is close to being a disaster early game if G2 loses a little bit of pressure, because with all the pushing lanes and a strong Lee Sin jungle, that's kind of what happened to G2 the first time they played W. They got run over early and were never able to recover.
I'm actually interested to see how this bot lane plays out, because if you sacrifice potions for push, you can do things like eating, avoiding and spitting it out, or just hard pushing with Tahm Kench and using the thick skin to soak. And Varus still has some AoE potential. They may actually need to go a little bit risky there to prevent exactly what you're saying there, Jet, and not get triple pushed.
We'll see what happens. Of course, we know that Condi has been one of the best performing junglers this tournament. Certainly has been having better games than Trick, despite both these teams being 3-3. Condi has been a more consistent point of strength. And as you mentioned, 3 pushing lanes, Condi's form so far this week, this could be a complete recipe for success for that Chinese LPL team, for Team WE. And again, WE beat G2 the first time around. These are the 2 teams tied in second place. WE wins here, they're up to 4-3. They own the head-to-head 2-0, and that road to the top 4, that road to a high seed into the top 4, means they are in a good spot for a finals berth at the very end of it all. If this train continues, WE looking to be strong here. 6
games played so far at MSI for all teams, 4 remaining, with a likely undefeated team in the top. We're putting the barrier for making it into the next round. 5 wins probably gets you there. 4 wins still could. So
yeah,
the fact that these teams are already sitting at 3 means this game really gives you a lot of wiggle room in future matchups.
Yeah, and in terms of the victories it gets you, top 4 is what you want for the seed for your region. If going further in the tournament though, then you want to be at least 2nd or 3rd, or you meet SKT in the semifinals, and it's going to be a quick trip home.
Yeah. And we talked a lot about pushing lanes and champion select. I want to relay that with some stats from the tournament so far. We have a stat called forward percentage, which is the percentage of time a player is more than halfway across the map. Mystic and Ben play very forward and have been very dominant in lane. Mystic's been plus 15 CSD at 15, as well as him and Ben both having forward percentages of around 35%, which is close to the highest in the tournament. G2 has been playing back the whole time. Yep. Sven's -3 minus CSD at 15, and their forward percentages are about 15%, which is one of the lowest of all the teams. So even if they were going to try and play aggressive, it's not been happening this tournament, and their champions don't dictate it.
It's interesting. G2, as you mentioned, statistics have been the worst early game team. They've been behind more than anyone else here, and yet they are 3-3. They are still 2nd place team. They've made the comebacks happen. Now, it doesn't make you feel really confident when you're losing all your early games, but they have at least managed to withstand those early games pretty well.
But they have been recently adapting. So the last time they drafted a lane that would get hard pushed on their turret with the Twitch, they had an early gank to relieve pressure. However, it seems as Trick starting on his right side, pathing away from this bot lane. So Mithy and Sven, they will have to take the honestly tough task of farming on the turret. They have excelled at this though, synergy-wise. That's actually here where we see Ben start with E. The new Malzahar may actually just max E or Q and just forgo the whole Voidling harass pattern against this matchup.
We'll have to see what he is doing here in this game. I'm definitely not up to snuff on the new Malzahar trends. So right now, Trick doing the wrap, sorry, not a wrap, it's a blue wolves into red start. I lost my place briefly, and looks like a very similar sort of mirror type of pattern from Condi. They're both going to get level 3 with double buffs on the top half of the map.
They lost the push. They yielded the push here, so let's see if Ben and Mystic did this willingly, because they had the option to go in. Maybe they are actually scared of that exact level 3 early gank.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, Crepo, because Mystic and Ben with those champions can easily get level 2 first. But if they're playing the safe game, if they think they're going to win the lane at level 3 or 4 anyway, and because Condi didn't have to make it down there for a gank, they're just playing the smart game right there and trying to not get pushed in. But the smart game actually concedes an advantage you didn't have to over to the opponent.
Yeah, if we then delve even deeper, Trick started blue side, they saw a leash. It's very punishing if an Elise goes for a single quad and clear, and then goes for a gank in the same area, because you can get counter jungled there. So I think this is almost too much caution from WE, but maybe there's a bigger plan in the works that us mere mortal casters do not see.
Yeah, and this is a minor point. League of Legends is actually a game that's impossible to play perfectly. You can make correct decisions, but those are still based on assumptions. And the assumption for WE is that Trick would be going for an early game. He didn't, which makes it look wrong, and that's why they didn't get the push level 2.
End of the day, 200 gold does not win you or lose you a game, so the risk-averse one tends to be the one that pro teams go for, and it's the one that WE chose right now, and hey, they're doing pretty well at a major international tournament. Can't hate on them too much. You saw Trick right now, he was recalling. This is a very common thing for pro junglers. You'll take the 5 seconds to walk near the lane, then recall there. Again, you're playing percentages, you're playing the correct choice. If there is a gank, I'm close by. If there's not a gank, I lost 3 seconds to be in position for a counter gank. It's probably the right choice, and so Trick making that safe assumption that if Expect gets dove or jumped on, he's around. Condi, though, has already gotten his first recall off. He's back into farming and has a lot of gold for himself.
We saw another base in the mid lane. Perks picks up his tier early. So G2 so far not being punished for having these losing pushing matchups, potentially. Obviously, it spikes at level 6 there where Gia can disappear. Also, double teleport is something we will have to track.
They're going to eat Ben. This could be the kill right away. They can get this one to happen. Low HP onto him, running away, exhaust onto Sven. Here comes Condi. Nice flash to get away from the Q. Looks like it's going to be Mithy with gray health on. Wants to bait with that. Here's the flash. Gets the stun. One more hit. He'll do it. Condi blocks the stun. The safeguard's there. Can Trick get the kill? Yes, he can. How about the trade back? No! Mithy saves his life. Beautiful execution by G2.
That had to be so close because Devour is an extremely long cooldown early on and he used it offensively at the start of the trade. Now Perks has to leave the lane kingdom because he got poked out.
Yeah, so a loss in the mid lane, but a win down bottom there for G2. They were winning that 2v2 straight up. That's a lot of the reason why people like Tahm Kench, even into range matchups, because his all-in potential is so high. You land that Q and Ben is close because he was trying to harass Ben. You're too far up in the lane, man. Ben then has to blow his exhaust. Every summoner gets burned, and because Condi was there before Trick, that's what nearly turns it around. But this is how big the G2 advantage was earlier. Trick can arrive 5 seconds later, and G2 can still come out on top of the fight.
And it also shows you why, in a lot of laning phases, look at this Devour. Ah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
How, if you want to beat a Tahm Kench lane, you got to go through him first. Because if you ignore him in the trade, his trades from proximity are so strong. So generally, you want to poke him out until the 0 pots. He steps back, and then you go to the AD carry. But Ben skips this crucial step here and gets completely out-traded.
And what's funny to me is it reminds me of when WE lost to Gigabyte Marines yesterday. When I cast them, it was Ben walking up when he shouldn't have. In the Marines game, it was him walking up and exhausting a Zyra when they were trying to go for someone else. Here, he's walking past the Tahm Kench to get comboed on, and lo and behold, loses the bot lane matchup as a result.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing, right, for WE, because Mystic has the best CS differential stats in the bottom lane, and they're often pushed up, so they're playing very aggressive. But that 10 or 15 CS actually isn't going to matter if you're giving up kills in lane, because the 15 CS isn't going to equal the first blood gold that's about 600 going over to the other team. So definitely now what's becoming a trend for WE.
Shifting to the other side of the map here, Perks, he still maintained his flash. More importantly, he can now play aggressive because he has backup from Expect. Expect hit level 6, he's currently in an empty lane, that's why Perks is going this aggro. Now, of course, 957 is there to potentially cancel out, but his teleport is down.
TP down means it's harder to roam around, of course. Expect in 957 still in a trading pattern, but Trick coming in to turn the gank around. There's a nice cocoon, a lot of stuns there. No more CC to land. Actually, Duke's back against the explosive cast. Hey, some damage.
Yeah, both top laners were actually trading. Body slam from Gragas and taunt from Expect. So the gank from Trick there was pretty low risk, and 957 was very safe with the way he tried to get away, flashing and ulting. That leaves him a little bit vulnerable for later, if Perks can ever find a window in mid lane to come die.
Let's see what comes in next. 600 gold difference right now. G2 basically up the value of that first blood plus assist. One of the major benefits of having Ashe on the team. Hawkshot knows that Raptors are down, red buff spawning soon, and that Trick is exactly top side by the Krugs. Might have gone by the blue buff and seen that was up as well.
Yeah, but Trick on low HP and low resources means he has to base and then go for his clear. His red buff's up, so the bot lane can actually expect Trick to not arrive very soon. But we're also approaching a secondary key ultimate here for the G2 lineup. This Tahm Kench ultimate can really surprise people, especially if you pair it with an aggressive jungle like Elise.
Yeah, Tahm Kench and Shen, the number of things that can appear from nowhere. And Rise is close to its peak, actually, as far as team compositions. are concerned. But if they want to make those plays, they still have to get the push in the lane, which they are doing a really good job of for the first 8 minutes. The worry was that Team WE was going to push in all the lanes, and Condi was going to be invading Trick's jungle constantly. That hasn't happened, so you have to consider this an early game win for G2.
Especially if you consider that the catalyst to a lot of these losses was Trick falling behind in the jungle. We had that the new red invade where it was like 2 HP off, Trick just trying to catch up for losses and really making poor percentage plays. Right now, he's in a good spot here, looking for a 2v2.
2v2, here comes the jungler coming around in this one as well. Here comes Perks, gets a Shen to his name though. Nice dodge, the Cocoon kicks him over the wall, lands the Q as well. Right back out goes Trick, who is flashless. One more hit, I'll do it. Kill comes through to Xie. Now they're on to Perks. Perks gonna stay alive in this one though. Great trade, and that was through a Shen that did get canceled by 957's ulti, but either way, nice kill on the Trick.
Yeah, poor communication in the heat of the moment. Perks and Trick were clearly expect to land, but he didn't show up, and then suddenly he turned around. Really good read from WE, realizing the Shen was cancelled, and then turning on the aggressive.
Yeah, and a big outplay by Condi towards the end of that fight, because it's a 2v2 skirmish with fairly equal levels. The one disadvantage that Trick had is he'd gone mobility boots rush and really didn't have much combat effectiveness, whereas you had the Warhammer on the side of Condi, so he's going to be doing more damage, especially when he's able to land his skill shots.
Yeah, here's Perks using his ultimate to his advantage, matching the teleport. We also need to track if we get a replay there, whether the synergy between Elise and Ryze, it's actually up to Ryze to get a good W placement.
Yeah.
Because if the guy's behind a minion, like Trick is not Angelina Jolie, he can't get that Cocoon around. Let's see what happens here. So he'll trade on GA, but GA is actually hiding behind a castle tree.
Yeah, Trick there for the counter gank. Shen'L comes in, so you expect it to turn. That flash right there by Condi is what turned it. And you also notice 957, pretty easy Gragas ultimate. Expect would have had to go much further back if he wanted to avoid that. Of course, when Shen doesn't arrive, the ultimate wasn't on Trick. He has no extra shielding. Team WE smartly focus him.
Good kill picked up, so equalizes the gold here in this one. And Condi had already been farming a bit more than Trick, so individual gold-wise, it's pretty much the same amount of money on both of these two junglers. G2 small gold lead from farm right now. We'll see what else can pay off. Their bot lane actually still +7. Yeah, the gank obviously helps with that one, but still it's Ven and Mithy who have been pretty frequently the reason they've been winning games. Are off to a good start.
It's about 5 minutes until the really cool part of this game starts, where WE will initiate 1v1 protocol, put both teleports on the side lanes, and then G2 have the ability to really move rapidly in between lanes with that Ryze, Shen, and Tahm Kench.
Yeah, there's been a couple of trends we've noticed at this tournament. One of them was the shielding supports. Those are almost getting banned out now. So from there, we've been seeing so much more split map play. These teams are playing the side lanes more than we've seen in quite a while. So whoever can get an advantage on those side lanes, and it can be from either the mid lane getting ahead or the top lane getting ahead, holds a huge edge.
So you can make those plays. Condi gonna get face checked by Expect. He taunts into him. Of course, the ward was there, kicks him right back out. Here comes Mithy, bringing in Trick, that jumps right back onto Condi. Doesn't go for any CC just yet, gonna run right back out. Looks like 957 threatening enough. Now Perks showing up, but that is a haphazard dive. They already stopped fighting. Why even go for the ulti Perks?
And here we see the theory in action, but an execution error. But you can just imagine what this comp could have achieved. But what a great reaction from WE. I'm sure they smelled it. The second Expect blind taunts 1v2, I think they knew what was coming.
Yeah, I mean, they tried to throw the kitchen sink at him with only Sven staying in the bottom lane. You can have the right call, like rushing the Nexus as TSM is doing the other Drake, but you have to hit the right things at the end of it. And G2, I think, could have made the right theory, but
like
didn't
the
make it
Nexus.
happen.
Yeah, well.
What about in 2014 when you had the right call? Is that too soon?
That's fine. We can talk about that one.
Okay.
Statute of limitations for Nexus rushes.
Great. So here we are at a tied game. This one, again, very important as it's the last time these teams will play each other during the group stage, and it's the two teams tied for second, the 3-3 record. When you've got a 6-0 SK Telecom T1 is pretty good when you're expecting to lose twice to that Korean squad. No major offensive moves have been coming through for Team WE just yet, and the thing is, they are on their key ultimates. We've got the Nether Grasp from Ben, you've got the Enchanted Crystal Arrow from Mystic. These are the champions that you would expect to see starting out the fight. Now, against the Tahm Kench, that's not going to happen really for you, but if they can get out of the lane and find someone else to kill, that can.
Yeah, so it's actually both teams keeping each other at a status quo. A move you can often make with Varus and Tahm Kench is basing and switching sides of the map. But obviously you don't want to do that against WE because creating an open map for these split pushes is not really in G2's favor. So they're staying bot lane. A little bit of a pause right now, so we can delve even deeper into that topic.
Yeah, so specifically as we get to figure out what this pause was, whenever you were against a LeBlanc, the LeBlancs motives is the side lanes. You're trying to push up the mid lane as quickly as possible, almost like any roamer, but the side lane threat LeBlanc has is so much higher. And the reason you match it with Ryze is by the late game, LeBlanc typically can't kill the Ryze, but Ryze doesn't have the same split push threat as LeBlanc. So really the goal for G2 in all this is to have Perkz and the side lane survive until he's at that point where LeBlanc doesn't kill him, because then he can enter the fight faster than LeBlanc.
Same for the carries. Looking at the Malzahar, everybody always talks about how he forces QSS buys, and it makes an inefficient mid-game spike. But if you go into the late game, suddenly the support is rendered useless. He only brings a 2-second silence in teamfights, and that is pretty much it, because everybody will have an answer to his key ability. Whereas the Tahm Kench, Devour, scales up even better into the late game, because the relative value, in my opinion, goes up.
Yeah, it is nice as well. You think about some of the efficiencies and forcing QSS buys, whatnot. It's almost only Perkz who's actually required to do that. Sven, more often than not, is going to be near Mithy. Sven's going to be able to build more damage base. I mean, he's the highest damage per minute player at this tournament right now. Sven is doing so much work right now overall as a player, and him getting to build efficiently means he gets to do that even more. It means he gets to be even more efficient, as it were, and that's always a good thing to have. You can see, if I can see the scoreboard right here, but we're seeing that Perkz has Merc Treads and has bought yet another No Magic Mantle, which might be QSS first major item, basically sitting on just Tier and Catalyst and waiting till that comes through. A lot of options available to him, but certainly, yeah, everyone's going to be respecting Ben and respecting Mystic, and then hoping they can win the team fights afterwards.
Yeah, and they always have expect on that Shen as well. Going back to a familiar style, I feel like this is almost the G2 of a year ago, where they would just slap expect on tanks, hope for him to survive and contribute to the team. Domestically, he actually improved, and I found his carry play to be really fun to watch, even going into matchups like a Wunder or an Odawana, and still pull his weight. But it seems at the tournament, they tried to protect him a few times in picks and bans, didn't work out, and now he's back on tanks.
Yeah, and touching back on the game a little bit, which we're paused 12.5 minutes into, it's exceedingly close. Gold is only 100 different, but with that being said, I still feel like G2 holds a slight edge in this moment, only because the early game should have been in such heavy favor for Team WE, and because G2 has played very strong late games against LeBlanc before. So obviously when we paused, the nice thing about casting in other venues where your voice isn't going out to everyone is you don't have to worry about giving away any type of strategy.
It cannot possibly
The Ocean Drake going over to Condi, which is most likely going to happen after the pause, helps WE a little bit, but it's still just a stalling game for G2.
Yep. There's the one problem that we sometimes look at, though, is Strick and his scaling, at least compared to Lee Sin, falls off a little bit, especially if you go for the Moby and then like the AP route on Elise. It's basically a shotgun approach tonight. Either you hit and kill, or you're essentially useless in these fights.
I want to chime in quickly on the reason for the pause. League officials are investigating a network issue. Now, to my understanding, they are playing on a LAN client here, but don't have any further information than that, but that's what I've been told. So they are investigating that to make sure everything's going okay. Otherwise, we may ship off to the analyst desk in a few minutes when they're ready for us, but otherwise we're going to talk about this. It seems like this pause will take a couple more minutes still to resolve. If you want to go grab a drink of water, it's probably the best time for you at home.
Otherwise, see you, freak.
Yeah, all right, that's fine. I'll cast better without you guys around regardless. You said you're my favorites. It's because you let me talk more. That's why I can just hear myself talk more often. But yeah, hopefully we do get that resolved soon enough. You know, we had gone 3 days without a hitch, but unfortunately on day 4, something else happened. And we still wait to see what can be resolved.
Yeah.
I mean, you say without a hitch. Mithy did pause when he thought his side
That's true.
landed. I had to bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, we keep bringing out points.
We were going to mention about that. I still think it's fine for a player to pause whenever they think something's wrong. Because if it actually was, you would regret it. And the pause that Mithy did was about a minute long. So I think it's totally fine, even though people are flaming him for thinking that he should have landed.
It's better to see a pro player once in a while pause a game and then be told that there was no reason to pause than there actually being an instance where he could have paused and then after the game feels really bad about it. You know, that is still the best outcome. In that particular instance, I also think it was because it wasn't an enraged W on the Renekton, and you're so used, whenever your Renekton plays, dashes in, that's a full Fury W, 3 strikes.
Expect the 1.5 seconds done. It's not that.
And also, even though it wasn't an issue, and I think he should have paused, it's still hilarious when a player thinks it should have landed, because then you can still casually flame him in a fun way.
Yeah, of course you can. All right, well, as we mentioned, as the league officials are investigating a network issue on the stage, we're going to send it over to our analyst to fill in some time for us.
Thank you very much, Freak. While they're investigating that networking issue on stage, we're going to get to talk about the games, or at least what we've seen of it so far. I love Jat there throwing a little mention about casual flame every once in a while. But with this game, we had questions around Trick, how WE might target him going into champion select. Well, he lands on Elise, so a champion that has the ability to make plays in the early game, and we were looking for him to do just that.
Yeah, and you know, it got started. You had a great gank bottom lane. A lot of that was attributed to Mithy on that Tahm Kench, and that's kind of like the big pick for me. Like, yeah, it's nice to see Trick get the Elise, but I felt like it was a big oversight from Team WE to allow that Tahm Kench to go through. You know, in second rotation, they picked the Malzahar when you can clearly see the makings of a pick composition coming out. You know, the Varus, the Elise in first rotation from G2.
I mean, the champion pool stuff, I think, rings really true, because Ivern and Graves are both banned out. The last one banned out by G2 as the final ban. And then you come to the point where, well, Lee Sin is there. You got to first pick it, but you remember, okay, G2 and Trick has tried it twice, and both times was underwhelming as the, let's say, broadcast-friendly version of what we saw on his Lee Sin. It was poor by international standards, so you don't need to first pick. You can go for the Ashe. That's the other big high priority pick. With both shielding supports gone, hyper carries are less viable, so most of the time you can go for the Ashe very safely. But I think Tahm Kench and Lee Sin are kind of the outliers here, where they get Lee Sin in the second round, which against any other team you would expect Lee Sin to be taken priority. And then because Ben is such a proponent of the Malzahar, he looks past the Tahm Kench that I think both teams should have been fighting for, and in the end it feels like G2 was kind of gifted.
This is definitely the highlight pick of this pick and bans. Mithy plays a bunch of Tahm Kench, actually most played, as well as the Ashe already being picked, and it's super good pick into both Malzahar and Lee Sin. So there's no hesitation with this pick. It's good. Everything that you're seeing made it really good. I think that was the the big win for that draft phase. But getting into the game, because we talk about execution, right?
Yeah.
And the play down bottom for G2 was around this Tahm Kench pick, and made because of that specific pick. That's why we're focusing on it so much. The aftermath, though, Trick does use his flash for this gank, and it's very risky to then go for mid 2v2s, because when you go for a mid 2v2 early on in the game, almost always you go for the jungler and you target the jungler. Here's how it all started, though, where Mithy, the Tahm Kench pick we're talking about.
And take a note of where that Devour is. I cannot believe that he actually gets the cooldown long enough to gobble up Elise and carry her to safety. But that stun landing, that was so unfortunate. Even though Condi tries to body block the Cocoon. And then here's the thing. We think that Trick's going to go down here. Mithy to the rescue.
Yeah, I mean, Trick was already pulling back because he knew he'd get in range for the Q and then get out. But the Tahm Kench having it up. You can see Mithy on your screens just bouncing around. He knows that the Devour was the difference there because he took that turret shot, a single more auto, and it would have been 1-for-1.
Happy to get that kill, but to your point, Kobe, expending the flash there in order to get it, therefore roll into that mid lane 2v2, and the kill gets traded back. So currently evened up 1-1 in terms of kill score. Slight gold advantage from CS to G2. But now I want to go all the way back to the beginning because I made you guys throw in your predictions. And Kobe, you were like, I really want to do predictions after champion.
Oh, he gets what he wanted.
So now we have that opportunity.
This is actually this is actually even more cheating because
you've seen a couple minutes of play as well.
The opening of the game as well.
But since we've got the time, we may as well. Would you guys change your predictions based on what you've seen so far in terms of the team comps that have been put together and the play as it's developed so far in this game?
I think I'll bite the bullet. I can see everyone's like, So looking across from Team WE's draft, if you're unfamiliar with the LPL, these are all comfort picks across the board. Condi on his Lee Sin, CA on the LeBlanc, Mystic on Ashe. There's a reason why it was a priority pick, and then Ben gets his Malzahar. Do I necessarily like the composition and how it fits into the Tahm Kench disruption? No, but there's no excuse for Team WE not to be able to execute on this because they play this, hundreds of times throughout the LPL. So I'm a bit weighted towards them there, even though I like G2's draft better late game.
And it's funny that you think you're falling on your sword because I'm actually in the opposite camp where I actually predicted WE, and then my educated opinion based on what the information we have now, you look at the draft, the Tahm Kench does feel like a trump card. So
bunch of flip-floppers over here. I'm staying with my bet.
Let me get there. Now, I like the Tahm Kench, obviously. I think both teams wanted Tahm Kench. Got it in this spot. The Malzahar priority is another one where I kind of scratch my head, but watching LPL VODs, that happens from time to time.
What?
Mind blown, I understand. But then the fact that we've also played quite a bit of game, and it feels like a lot of WE's advantages are weighted to the early game. The early game's not over. We're not in the transition to mid-game yet. With that extra information of seeing no big lead, in fact, a goal disadvantage to a comp that I really think does outscale pretty severely on the side of G2. How many games have we seen LeBlanc try to power through shields and redemptions and Shen ultimates and a Ryze who builds tanky anyway? It feels like there will be a natural tipping point around 30-35 minutes. So I'd actually go the reverse and favor G2 as an educated opinion, but you never really know, right? There still could be a flare point. We're still early in the game.
You got thoughts, Kobe, or can I move on to a quiz?
Like I said before, I am staying with my bet. I am actually going to highlight a different area that I'm a little bit concerned about, and it is the Moby boots on Elise here for Trick. Because of that kill in the mid lane, you lose quite a decent amount of momentum. So that would be the one area. Like, I do have faith in Condi. I'm actually become a pretty big Condi fan over the last couple of months here. And I think that would be the one main area.
All right, just as a note for you viewers, we have people going through the logs right now trying to work through this issue. So still a few minutes away from getting back towards gameplay, but just keeping you updated on what the issues are. So now I want to talk about your point here in terms of late game scaling and that LeBlanc in particular. You know, we've seen LeBlancs with multiple different build paths here so far, but yet to see anyone stick to that side lane and really spread the map out as opposed to grouping in the late game and using it as a team fighter.
I'm almost 100% that CA will try to group up as a team fighter, and the reason being is even if he decides to go for the Gunblade, which I believe he started to build it, it's usually what he does in the LPL. If you look at G2's composition, they have so much mobility to counteract someone trying to play in a side lane looking for a split push. The Tahm Kench, the Ryze, and the Shen can all beat him there.
All right, well, as you speak, I get the word that we're going to send it back to the casters because the teams are readying up to get back into the game. Guys, take it away.
Thank you very much, Dash. Yep, 12-minute long pause. Players are ready. I saw both Condi and Perks type R in chat, which is the globally accepted I'm ready to play League of Legends emote.
That's a good
character. It is a good sign, yeah. Apparently, no cause for alarm really has been found. I'm heavily shortening what I've been told in my headset, but we are ready to go back into the game. And G2 Esports from the European LCS and Team WE from the Chinese LPL are ready to get back into their game. And here we go. Ocean Drake have been going down. Condi gets it no problem.
Yeah, what better way to resume the instant Drake here bonus for WE. G2 were getting ahead by scaling, but we're still waiting for a key moment is where their first item spikes come out for WE, and they move into the 1-3-1. So by no means is G2 safe yet.
Exactly. Waiting for Gunblade out of the mid lane, LeBlanc. Waiting for Blade of the Ruin King out of the bot laners. And we're also waiting for when the globals come into play because we're still in the laning phase. That's not likely to decide this game. It's going to be about how they play the side lanes in this matchup and how much they can spread out the map and make the proper collapses.
Yeah, and the game has been snowballing for W. Whenever Ben and Condi successfully group up and play with some vision here, following this dragon take, they moved in deep vision, got a blue buff steal here, so slowly creeping on to G2's turf.
So he didn't creep on any farther right now. Gold League, he's going back and forth. 200 right now in the favor of Team WE. And then it goes back to nothing. So never mind. Farms and waves going back and forth. Plus 20 for the top set of Expect. Definitely a solid one here. Mid looking for the big play alongside Trick, hoping to flank in his bottom lane. Looking for Ben. They poke off the passive. Great flash to get away. The CC will not land. Here comes the re-engage. Arrow's going to land on the mid. The Afterburns, the flash. Here comes the pressure. They have the burst damage. Tries to get the shields on. Will live a little bit longer, but he's not going to survive it through. Nice kill picked up for WE. The ultis are layered. No problem.
Yeah, cautious engage here. Follow-up coming. That's a fake clone. Here's the real one.
Cocoon used on the clone. Here comes the chase. One kill coming through. Make that another one. 3 for 0 with a bot lane dive. Team WE far ahead now.
We talked about collapses. That was Team WE making a huge one. We saw Mithy try and get aggressive with Trick. They only sent 3, but Team W was able to bring the entire squad down there. Did not like the placement of Mithy's Abyssal Voyage, but Team WE turned that around beautifully.
Yeah, definitely did not. Let's try and get in the minds here, like maybe why they don't want to get lane ganked potentially, but still they're way out of range, telegraphing it super hard for Ben to flash here, and then the reaction from Expect is way too late.
Exactly. Ben still had his passive shield up, so I also have to point out that Mithy was focused properly. Otherwise, he would have just devoured someone. So the guy that they could nether grasp, they did. But then the continuation of the gank as well. Burning the cocoon on the clone, only emboldening WE even more so. And Condi landing the spells on Lee Sin. Everything worked out at the end there for Team WE.
And one other constraint here, critique here of Mithy is he flashed in a line. He saw the arrow flash and it still hit him. You're not allowed to flash into the skill shots that get you killed. Mistake from Mithy that even got these kills happening in the first place. If he lives, he saves the rest of the targets. That dive probably doesn't happen at all.
Yeah, that placement, it really makes you wonder, right? Like, because they're being proactive with the play. They don't have the Shen with them from the get-go, so they're kind of half-committing both location and in terms of intensity of the gank, and somehow WE, they get to react much faster here on a reactive play.
And because of that, all the gold influx they just got Gunblade completed on the Blanc, Blade of the Rune King, and QSS completed onto Mystic. They have the ability now to play forward and set up more of those plays.
Let's see what W can now do with this one. They've had hit and miss early in this one, though, hitting pretty nicely now at the 15-16 minute mark here. Mystic has been swapped into the mid lane alongside Sven on the other side. Ulti's not going to land. Nice dodge there by Mystic. Taunt's going to go in, but a perfect timing on the Quicksilver Sash. Mystic gets away with it. Nice job to stop that aggression.
Really good movement here by Mystic. Sven, again, not finding the mark here on crucial engages. We had the Ash arrows kind of go wander off right now. That Varus ultimate doesn't connect for the second time in a row. Need to see if this gets to G2's mental game.
Yeah, pretty good amount of harass there just from a few spells from Xie as well. You can see blue buff Gunblade LeBlanc at this point of the game. Very difficult to deal with. Perkz is going to try and match because he's built so much magic resist, but it's still going to be a tall task.
Puts the clone in the brush to see if the Shen was recalling. In fact, the recall complete, so we got out of that one. But yeah, here comes Rise to match in the lineup. Then and Mystic back into the mid lane. Perkz playing very defensively in this one. Does not have flash. Does not want to get attacked by another grasp. They know Ben's ulti is down, but that cooldown is likely to be shorter on the flash.
Now W is looking for spillover. They're looking to push this LeBlanc lane, move into the enemy jungle, maybe surprise somebody mid, maybe surprise somebody who's warding over wall. Same for the Gragas in the top lane. Qmax means just AoE push, disappear, find the pick somewhere. W is in their ideal formation, 1-3-1.
Exactly, and you have to wonder how G2 is going to try and fight back from this, because the multiple times, too, they've tried to use Abyssal Voyage, it's gone wrong for them. They either blow everything to get nothing, or they just kind of walk into a counter gank. Another Ash Arrow finds True.
Gonna find the stun, gonna find the root as well. Grey Health still getting burned down. Do they have the damage to kill off Mithy? Not just quite. Under 100 left on the support. He's gonna survive, though. Perkz is in the lane with his Ghost popped and does not find anything to do with it, so a Summoner Spell down for basically nothing. He ulted in and found no targets.
Really close there for Mithy going down. His flash was still on cooldown. Uses Grey Health very well right there, procced it at the right time, but you can see the threat that W is applying.
They can get on this one. The threat is still there. Mid lane going to be falling pretty rapidly. They've already gotten the first turn of the bot lane. Now the chase line was cutting. Nice kickback, knocks up Sven. Doesn't go for that time just yet. Now Expect is here. Does find one kill. Ben goes down. 957 is the target. One stack from Tahm Kench is on. Here's two. One more attack will give him Devour, but he's not going to get that one here. It's now Expect. We're going to help. Nice knockback. Finds him, and Mithy never able to save. Instead, he dies. Two picked up there for one traded back. Well played, WE again.
Yeah, beautiful turn by 957 there, but you also have to talk about the poor communication at the tail end of that team fight for G2. Their front line was forward, which normally feels like a good thing, except their entire backline damage threat was at about 200 health, so they couldn't even get close. That just allowed Team WE to free hit, wait for the turn, land the Gragas ultimate, and get the kills.
Nice fight by Trick, but it's a poor consolation prize. So it's a participation ribbon at best right now, with the fact that WE has taken over everything for the last several minutes of this game. 4,000 gold lead, 2 turns to 0 as well. And you're looking at the root on the Trick.
Yeah, and they just took a massive leap forward in this race for second place here. Both teams tied at 3-3, looking for that fourth victory here. W, their early game wasn't the best with this composition, but they just turned it on this first item spike.
Yeah, and it was about grouping in the mid lane, but note that they grouped before G2 did. Perkz keeps the Shen ult, Mithy comes in, so that's a lot of the chase G2 had already down. Expect also expenses flash taunt needlessly.
Yeah, here they should pull the fight. I'm pretty sure Mithy still has Devour. He could just walk out with Expect here, but he's looking to play so defensive that gives honestly a fantastic ultimate ult for 957. Two-man cast right there, nothing they could do.
But really poor coordination from G2, as you're mentioning. Yeah, great play from WE, but Sven is literally hitting minions onto the turret while his front line is running forward. He had help to fight, and he didn't tell them, or he didn't get the message, or something went wrong where he's hitting minions when his tanks are trying to engage, and that just can't happen. Jat, you had mentioned before, low health bar on Perkz as well, of course. And it's a mistake from G2 and capitalization by WE.
Yeah, I could also be mistaken. Sven's flash may have been down during that fight. Whenever Gragas enters the fight like that with Body Slam Flash available as well as Cask, you have to be extremely respectful as someone like Sven. So I can see why he would stay back in that fight.
Gonna dodge some of the CC. Trick is gonna be able to get away with this one. Explosive cast, jukes to the side. Perkz is okay, so is Trick. Pretty well played defense by G2, but this red buff gonna be taken away, which is still advantage to Team WE. Spike guarantees another re-engage. Sven not long for the world. One more hit, he'll do it. Taken down by 957. Heavy lifting done by Xie, of course. Trick forced to run. It's a kill plus the red buff steal. WE just continuing to win everything. Perkz pops X Drinker. Looking for Condi, won't get much more. Nice stun, stops 957.
Yeah, G2 looking to reclaim something on the bottom side of the map. Perks has had really good movement in his fights, but his allies are getting picked off. Turns out even if you have flash available, Jet, you can still fall victim to body slam flash and end up dying.
Yeah, that fight was all about Xie getting the majority of the damage onto Sven, so now he's flashless and things are kind of going from bad to worse. Expect doesn't even stay to push the bottom lane. I thought that was the whole point of delaying the recall, so not the best after-fight coordination, but watch Xie onto Sven.
Mithy's not even close, of course. Normally you'd want him there so we can save Sven and prevent some of the damage coming through. Not even a possibility for him there. He's on the wrong side of the fight with that one. Can't objectively blame Mithy, but it's still the situation they were in.
Yeah, and this game's getting out of hand because Team WE is making the right call in almost all cases here. Yes, G2 isn't playing as good defense as maybe they could be, but Team WE is just relentlessly assaulting them.
Absolutely agree. All the time, they are into the jungle, looking for fights, looking for those pickoffs, and Xie has done so well on that LeBlanc.
Yeah, this offensive playstyle with double split push also has really low cost of failure because the plays are made so deep in G2's jungle that even when they can outplay or neutralize, they can't get any objectives on the back of those plays, right? While WWE is actually stealing away jungle farm from Trick. And that actually makes him fall further and further behind on this very snowbally pick in the Elise.
Absolutely the case, and even though he did get that first gank or counter gank or whatever you want to call it off, hasn't found much more so far in this game, and Condi is true to the pedigree we've seen so far this tournament. Condi is having the better game from the jungle role. Trick's managed to smite his own blue buff back. That's been about it so far this game. G2 licking their wounds, hoping they can scale up, but with how much threat is on Sven, even with a Hurricane completed in about 1,000 gold, it's going to be so far to go for G2 to catch up.
Yeah, now we're already started to think about the Baron Asher calls, but if you look at G2's comp flow, they are extremely good at defending their own jungle. They have multiple movements possible to get into the pit. Abyssal Voyage, you know, maybe with the Tahm Kench or the Rise Ultimate is available too for them. So it's going to be very hard for WE to get conclusive control over this top left quadrant. So they need to keep the map open.
Yeah, and they need to continue to make the plays. When we talk about the late game scaling of the Malzahar against a QSS Tahm Kench, if they ever end up in that situation where they group and they're not able to spread out the map, it makes the Malzahar mostly irrelevant. And likewise, if you get enough inherent magic resist and Sven doesn't get hit by Xie's skill shots, LeBlanc can be a non-factor. So you can have a lot of different ways of outscaling if you're G2 right here, as long as they can stop the bleeding. It just gets harder and harder the more successful plays Team WE make.
And that's the thing, Team WE has made these successful plays. They are ahead. They've done such a good job in this game. 6,000 gold lead at 23 minutes is certainly a great mark to be in right now. And let's watch as they keep it going. They've got decent ward coverage in this top jungle. They've got about 6 around the Baron pit right now. 957 seems to have pretty good enough control over Expect in the lane. He's just kind of playing the part. It's about the other 4 and what they can do with this one. Again, that ward control pretty nice. You can see complete darkness in that upper river. G2 have to face check Fog of War, rush after Fog of War brush. WE can be waiting in all of them.
They're debating, are they 3-man Asher? No, they are, but it's Trick dying.
They're going to look for a lot of damage into this one. Of course, the chain still follows. Stun into Mithy, pops the Quicksilver Sash, but that is health bars and cooldowns burn.
And that's why it's really important to use the buddy system when you're checking the jungle like that with the Tahm Kench. Pretty much perfect use of the Devour and the QSS, but that still pushes them back. QSS is now down. They're low on health. Team WE make the turn.
That's the play they have to make. They know it's so hard to actually get the kills in the jungle, so they're going to go for the Baron play itself. Trick was chunked. Has to come back into this one.
But if it goes on, look for Abyssal Voids and Shadow to drop Trick potentially into the pit. He can repel as well. This is a 50-50.
3,000 health, perks off on the side. Here comes Shen. There's the null, and it's going to be a lot of damage. The taunt to run away. They're going to get them off Baron. Trick going to be chunked very low. Nice push in on Expect, but he's the tank. He's going to stay alive. G2 able to stop the Baron attempt.
To G2's credit, they have been very good at defending Baron here at MSI. So another close hold, but WE is going to continue to go.
The defense might be cut right now. It's going to be Xie getting the opening setup. Kill comes through to 957, but make no mistake, the hard work was done by the mid laner. Condi actually ends his Q on just the underside of the wall, so he gets pushed back. I know it looked funny, but that is going to work that way based on when he hit the button. But looks like it's another attempt for Baron, this time with the dead mid laner, and double Oak-Strict to keep their health bars high.
Yeah, and they're going back. Trick is lurking around the top side. He knows he can wait a little bit here, so his reaction is bait to poke, to starting Asher, and then another turn here. It can't think. Do the unthinkable here with the steal. TP's coming in for Expect.
Looking for the play. It's a 4v5. Trick over the wall, repels way early and dies for free. He didn't know how low it was. It's going to be a clean take. It's G2, forced to run away. WE with the great play secures the Baron with no sweat at all.
I love the relentlessness, and I love how they utilized the double Ocean Drake. That was so critical there in the extended fight, never having to recall and still being at full health. But specifically, G2 just had no other ways of getting vision inside the pit. They kept the control ward down so that the blue ward was able to just get disabled, and then Trick just had to try to find his win because they were out of control ward, they were out of everything else for vision.
WE has been forcing G2 to gamble. When initially it was Axe pushing up the lane solo and mid, and they could technically be doing 3-man Asher. G2 gambled on the face check, they got punished and poked out, then they had to go around. W did not want to go for 50-50, so they got key ultimates turned again, and meanwhile, the Ocean Drakes just kept on ticking and ticking and ticking, and then they went in. And I love that you can play with the speed at which you take a Baron Asher. A lot of teams will do a 50-50 and actually hold it on 3,000. Wait for somebody to come in, kill that guy, and then turn. So this is actually very calmly played by WE.
Definitely agree. Smart stuff out of this squad, and the 8,000 gold is what's there to show how good they've been in this game. Turning around a single bot lane counter gank, and otherwise it's all been roses. The Chinese squad right here looking to improve to 4-2, looking to make it a 2-0 head-to-head against G2, which would tie break any two-team tiebreaker, obviously, which sets WE in pole position to get that second place bye. I realize the irony of pole position for second place, but trust me, it's going to work in this metaphor here. 9,000 gold looking for the push now into the bottom lane. Inhibitor turret under fire shortly. G2 against the ropes.
Yeah, Team WE has done such a great job of snowballing this one up until this point. They have the sustain as well, so they can keep this as a relentless push. Mystic goes down to half health. He's got good lifesteal as well as Ocean Drake, so he'll be full health in no time.
Yeah, this
full health.
And this is a team as well that stepped into the tournament with Condi and Mystic being their big names alongside Xie. But I feel like 957 has really done a great job in their wins here. Key factor. Now Sven's flying in.
Now they're going to find Minty, who's able to save a bit of time for this one. The kickback gets him nicely played by Condi. Going to get away with it as well. He's going to make it all happen. Double kill so far for Xie. Looking for a bit more as Expect Force to run away. Stunned up, going to die despite the dodge zone. They got plenty of damage also-wise, and it's going to be bot lane inhibitor dying.
Yeah, Ben's actually adding a lot of value. Even though every offensive move ult-wise is getting cancelled, he's giving 2-second silences in these teamfights because his team is playing so far forward, making it very easy to land them. That breaks with the normal flow for G2 as well.
And what a dive that was just overall for Team WE, pushing just as far as they can without losing a single member. This is probably going to be the game.
It's going to be at 28 minutes in. The first Nexus turret has fallen. Perch hoping to do something to buy time. It's just not going to happen, though. It's just Mithy and the mid laner. Tricks around here somewhere as well. And they're going to try as hard as they can to kill something off. But the last stand, well, they're not going to stand for too much longer. The respawns are back. Xie there to do a bit more damage. Trick running him out of the base. And, okay, G2 have bought a few more seconds, but costing the life of their jungler.
Well, they're deciding to run out of the base and recall because they have such a gargantuan advantage, but a defenseless Nexus the next time WE wants to walk in.
It's never a good sight when the enemy team is casually strolling out of your base past 2 turrets, then turning back to kill you because they have 2 oceans.
There we go. They weren't even recalling. Looking for the fight right again. Ben stays alive. Will drop down to Sven. That's something picked up, but look at the damage of it back onto him. Killed off by Mystic, who's now got double kill for himself, and even Xie survived just barely. His encounter with the 2 solo laners of G2, and now once again they continue the siege into the mid lane.
I don't think I've ever seen a game with this much value from Ocean Drake.
Yeah, it happens occasionally, right? You realize when it is the perfect Drake for you right now. Whenever they can't quite kill you, it just means they never have to recall, and especially in a game that can be dictated by tempo and ultimate cooldowns like Stand United, Team WE is getting so much value out of it.
Especially against ult-based teams you're mentioning. So we can watch that bot lane fight again as we set it up.
Yeah, this was just so well done by Team WE. Notice right after the QSS, they still land the Ash Arrow and get the kickback onto mid.
Yeah, and then it's so easy for when Xie, his movement in and out of these fights is so crucial. He goes in the background, kills, snaps back to reality right there, and Ben, he's just walking around silencing people. You know, it makes it almost looks too easy for WE.
Yeah, the turret was also on 957 for the majority of that dive after Condi had gone in for the first one, so they even bounced that properly. Just very well done.
There's not much left to do now. G2. This would be a much stronger comeback than the Flash Wolves or the nearly TSM one. This is, even though G2 have come back from early game deficits, this one is practically out of reach. 15-3 in kills. WE looking to close it out soon.
This is becoming a pattern here for G2. They attack the setup, so they don't want to get split pushed into their base. Whenever somebody has a Baron or an aggressive push here, they're looking to attack them in the moment they're setting up formation.
Trying to find it, 957 though in the front line. Arrow's going to land on a trick, gets chomped up by Mithy, stays alive. There's a flash ulti on the Perks, he goes out, he's going to be alive for a little bit longer, but there's the first kill, Mithy is gone. Nice setup there, the double knockback as Trick has fallen. Perks going to be off the map as well, 2 left alive, and Sven is now dropping, only expect left alive, and I expect this game is going to be over. WE going to close it out, going to improve to 4-3, and they're going to dominate the head-to-head 2-0 against G2 Esports. WE running well in the back half of this group stage.
Yeah, 3 people on Team WE deathless in this game. They played it very well and make a strong statement to try and be the number 2 in this tournament.
Well played, Team WE, amidst the cheers of the Brazilian crowd here in Rio de Janeiro. What might be the number 2 team at this tournament have been victorious. G2 Esports still have some wounds to lick. They're also still in third. 3-4 is the highest other teams can hope to get at the end of the first set of games today. So still in a position to make the top 4.
Yeah, and Shia right there. King is dead. Long live the king. Lane Kingdom goes over to the LPL in this game. Fantastic performance. Pressure early with the LeBlanc. Move to the different lanes. Side lanes, constant flanks. When you group mid for the siege, that's kind of the tipping point of the game.
Yeah, and there are a lot of pundits online saying, why are all these teams banning LeBlanc? It's 0-4, it hasn't won. Just take a look at this game and the way that the map just collapsed after Team WE got a little bit of lead and the way he was able to dictate the pace along with the rest of the team. Very good play by Shie and WE.
Absolutely agree. Of course, both these teams will play one more game today as well. And then tomorrow's the last day of the group stage. Shie, Ben, the rest of Team WE almost secured in that top 4. It would take some kind of minor miracle to miss the knockout stage at this point, which would once again give the LPL a Pool 1 seed into the World Championship at the end of the year. Keep in mind that is what's at stake here. The top 4 teams guarantee Pool 1 for their region. There's 4 spots up for grabs, obviously. SKT already gained that. No shocker there by any means for South Korea. But still, that is what's here at stakes for the... There's 3 of the next 5 that are going to get that here, and whether it's going to be the